involvement. And we start the conversation by really developing relationship, because it's really hard to talk about the things you aspire to do and aspire to be without relationship. They say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Part of that displaying that you care is done through conversation. And it sounds like, duh, well, they're mom and dad. They should know that, and they should be doing that. So of course they care. But that's subjective. It's the student whom has to feel that the parent not only cares, but cares through listening. And so for 30 days, I committed to hopping on Facebook Live to talk to parents. And we touched on so many things: the power of planning, the power of their student self-awareness, the power of their student's mind, harnessing that, and their role in pulling that out of their student. And so all of those videos that we did for the past 30 days are available at thepowerparent.com. It's free, doesn't cost any money. I'm not asking for no email address. And I pray that the Power Parent series would open up the eyes and ears of parents so that they can have those conversations fluidly and comfortably.
So I'm curious to learn more, and for any parent that's listening to us, I would love to know what stood out to you the most in doing that 30-day presentation, and what type of feedback did you get in presenting to parents?
I think what stood out to me the most was the parents' response to the importance of casually talking. And when I say casually talking, I mean actively listening, and the importance of that. I told a lot of stories, my own personal stories, the sex talk that me and my mom had, how that was even nurtured, the value of communication, what it really means to listen. Like, there are two parts of communication. It's actually a three-way channel happening. Like, there were a lot of teaching points throughout the 30-day series, and the practicality of the information I thought really stood out to me. And I think proof of that was in some of the feedback that I got from parents. One being was from a dad, and he said that, I stepped on his toes a little bit. And one of the segments that we did was physical presence versus emotional presence, and the power of being emotionally in the room, not just physically there. And I remember I sang a Jill Scott song, I'm lonely whenever you're around. And I said, that is a romantic reference, like she's talking about her man being in the room and he's not paying her any attention, but that children can feel that way too from their parents. And certainly parents can feel that way too with their child. Like, you're in the room, like, do you love me? Do you care enough? And so, the distinction between the two, how do you show up emotionally, which I think is a compounded value that I don't think either one is better than the other, but together they're powerful. And so I think those are the biggest takeaways for parents and for me.
So now, Shauna, we got guests who sing on our show. I think we're going to have to.
I just was like, oh, wow. So you now have a 4S, Linnita. I know you're the student singing success strategist now. But she's so right, because, I think as parents, sometimes we just kind of assume, you're in the house with me. And then also the type of communication that parents often have with their children can be more directive. Have you done your homework? Have you cleaned up? Don't do this, that type of stuff. But to really have conversations or something very different.
Yeah. Yep. And you want to have that. You want to have that dialogue, and you want to have it before they leave home. It's really hard to win them back. Right now, they have to. Get them while they have to. So when they become adults, they don't have to.
And I'm curious in what you're sharing, Linnita. We mentioned this before, so we're going to bring it up on the show. For the parent who only sees two pathways for success for their child post high school, doctor, lawyer, which I know growing up, that was a consistent conversation in the community, in the village. Mm-hmm. What would you say to the parent who is saying you either need to be a doctor or a lawyer? What are your thoughts about that?
We talk about this in my program, the Dream Career Academy, about the intersections of a career. And, I obviously, I would say to the parent that I would address that. Obviously, there's a fear there, speaking from a place of fear and concern that the student wouldn't be able to sustain themselves independently when they reach a certain age. I think the goal of a parent is to mature, mold, and prepare an independent adult. And so there's some fearful and hesitancy in doing so in a way that's non-traditional. And I'm really big on exposure, exposing parents to examples and allowing them to also meet individuals whom are practicing non-traditional things. One of the things we do in the Dream Career Academy is we actually bring in people whom are doing the thing that students dream of, like their specific thing. Sometimes they are things that are far-fetched, and you hear people say, hey, this is what I had to sacrifice. I have to do this in these different ways, but you see that it's possible. There's some real life examples of people who have made a success, made a non-traditional thing successful. And when we talk about traditional versus non-traditional, I classify them as linear versus non-linear. So teacher, lawyer, doctor, those are linear. Like there's a clear path. If you do this, you obtain this certificate, or you take this test, you could obtain this level of profession. Those are linear pathways. Well, a lot of the things that our students have interest in sometimes are non-linear. So that would be psychology, communications, religion, anthropology, political science, English, math. Like those things don't have a direct pathway. And that's what makes parents uncomfortable, because they cannot quantify how you're going to apply the degree. So I'm really big on, like I said, exposure, getting their students out to see and touch and talk to the people whom are doing the thing that their student dreams of. And I am a living example of something nonlinear. I studied communications, and my mom also told me, you probably should have been a nurse right after graduation, when I had a tough time transitioning. And but I'm not good at science, and I don't like blood. So, that's not my thing. And I say to students, today I do make six figures over that. But I have to work hard. Like there are multiple streams that meet that. There's not just this one thing. So, I could attach myself to one thing, and perhaps I would be, low on the labor market. But because I created those other streams, it could turn out to be lucrative. I mean, it's all in how you see it. It's perspective, it's intersection, it's exposure. I mean, there's so many layers to it. And I always, do you want to be the parent that pushes your student to dream big, or do you want to be the parent that pushes your student to dream comfortably?
Mm-hmm. And that is just such a hard conversation. I mean, because when I listened to you spout off those majors, I was like, yeah, I remember those are the majors. They're like, yeah, communications is cute, but you need something that can lead to a real job, something that's going to pay, or the arts or something like that, And so that's really very different, for some parents. And even the thought that college might not be for everyone, and that someone could be successful without a college degree. I'll be very, for me, it's like, no. College is something you have to do, and having those conversations to say, okay, maybe you don't, but then there still needs to be a plan, and there's some other non-linear, as you say, positions that are out there. As parents, we kind of have to be able to listen to those things too.
Yep, such a scary thing, but yeah.
So you mentioned multiple streams of income. And so what I want to do now is offer you the opportunity to share with us. You are an entrepreneur. Talk to us, because you're an author, you're a speaker, and you do your workshops. So talk to us about your journey as an entrepreneur. What has it been like, and what have you learned most from it?
I think ultimately, if I could sum it up, it's been a faith journey. And, I always say, people see what's happening in the light. They don't see what happens underneath the surface, and which are a lot of prayers, a lot of money invested, and a lot of fear that had to be overcome. And Shauna, I saw that you posted earlier today, you had a fearless shirt, and I could totally resonate with that message. And so, for 5 years, I spoke unpaid. When I started in 2013 until 2018, it wasn't until 2018 that someone asked me, how much will it cost to get you to come to my school? And when she asked me that, I could almost shed a tear while she was talking to me. I was waiting for so long for someone to validate the value that I saw in myself, which is the first issue, and to ask me. And so, it was humbling. So, I would say, outside of it being a faith journey, it was an investment journey. And in order for me to see the monetization of the business that has transpired, like the Dream Career Academy, like going on 5 books now, it came from investing in coaching. I've spent thousands of dollars. In fact, right now I'm finishing up a coaching program that is the value of a new car. And so it's through that coaching program that I learned the tools and that you see me practicing it live and you see the results of the fruit. But in order to make those investments, I've worked multiple part-time jobs and I've done things I did not want to do so that I could do the thing that I love. So when you ask me, what has it been like? It's been a faith journey. It's been a financial investment journey, including staying home to live with my parents and still driving the car that I purchased after college to minimize my expenses so I could pay for a coaching program that costs when I could be driving in the Audi A7 that I really want. And so, paying a car note for coaching, basically. But I'm committed. I've come way too far from a state of depression to not having any energy or zeal to no money to a 498 credit score by making dumb decisions all the way up until today where someone else would trust me with their young person. Oh, I'm not stopping here. So it's been a faith journey.
So I love your testimony, and we have about 5 minutes left. I want to hear you share why it's important to learn how to invest in yourself. I alluded to the fact that, like, if we were dating, we allow that new person to come into our lives without any regard or concern of how it impacts our schedule, our day-to-day routine, our goals, dreams. But when it comes to investing in ourselves, we begin to question whether this is even worth it. Should I? So talk to us in the time we have remaining why it's important to learn how to invest in ourselves.
Without investment, you stagger your growth. Like, are you okay with remaining a toddler? Like, are you okay with staying in the infancy phase where you have a dependency? Or do you want to evolve? You want to be the independent teen and eventually the adult. I feel the same way about spirituality. Are you okay with being an infant in Christ? And so it's important to invest so that you can grow. And so every seed that you're planting, your seeds are your relationships, the time that you yield in service, every seed, it comes back to you. One of the things my coach said, she said, sow seeds until you see the harvest. It may not, the harvest may not happen where you planted, but it will happen. And so, you invest for the growth. You invest because you believe in your dream. You invest because God is trusting you to manifest the thing he put inside of you that only you can do. Like, only you can do that. Only I can work with students at the capacity that I am working with them. Only I could facilitate the Dream Career Academy in its full capacity. God left that up to me. I have that responsibility at minimum. And when it's all said and done, I want him to be pleased. Well done. That's what the aim is. And so that's why I think it's important to invest.
That is, okay, you can't see me, but I'm about to tear up over here because to hear how you are just so passionate about what you do, because I think Ava DuVernay says when you're in your lane, no one else is with you. And, once you find where you're supposed to be and that's where you're supposed to be, it's yours and God has that for you. So we are just so excited for you and the work that you're doing. But I appreciate your honesty because I think, the word entrepreneur sounds glamorous, doesn't it? Like, oh yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work for myself. I want to do this. But you've shown us through practical examples how you've had to work at it. It wasn't always easy. You don't have that Audi today. I know you're going to have it soon, but to put some of those things off and to invest in continuing to learn. Because, sometimes we just assume that if this is what I want to do, I'm just going to go do it. And that message, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I'm curious, what do you say to that 16-year-old, 17-year-old who is just like, no, this is what I want to do and I already got it. I know how to do it. And I think for me, that's what I worry about. The one who has had zero training, nothing, and they just think they know it all. How do we still guide them to realize they need to learn a little bit more without smashing their dreams?
I would throw them into the environment that they so passionately want to be in, because that was me. Like throw them in there, let them observe, take them to shadow and leave them there for a day and see, you ready for that?